Lift off in 3, 2, 1.
Episode, I'll just welcome everybody to another episode of the Body Mind Index. I'm your host, Jerry Pujals, and I'm here with family member and friend Jason Iuli. Now that I've done that part, now we can talk. Hey man, your background view is much better than Kurt's. His sucked.
I know. It looks like we should have rusted cars and old barbecues in the back here.
He's not hyper aware to what should be in the background on a podcast episode. But I'll tell you, it was a great episode. A lot of people had some beautiful things to say about the shorts, and a lot of things that he said connected with people. So I'm super grateful. And you do have a space beautifully set for gardening, which is why I know he wants to do that. And you're a stone throws away from the ocean in La Jolla, so it's beautiful no matter what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know if it's gardening, more farming. I think it is that he's trying to do farming.
It's farming.
Yeah.
Hey, it causes movement, man, and if it causes movement, what the hell? Just get out there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, dude, thanks for doing this with me. I appreciate it. I've never had a chance to catch up with you one-on-one because that guy's always there.
Yeah.
And I think this is a special opportunity. The premise of this channel is primarily for me to share my story and sort of what I've been through in this transformation. But then what has led us to is to bring people who have had their own transformation and their own story in their own way, because they're all so different, right?
Right.
This whole weight loss journey is not one size fits all. And I find that all of it is hard. There's none of it that is easy. There's none of it that comes without pain. And I was just curious, you've been an athlete and you've also been a pretty high level athlete. You're also a pitching coach who owns a pitching training business to young women around the entire country to help them perform better. So you also understand performance at a high level, where I never understood that. And I just had a good friend, Dustin Didi, on the podcast, who's a award-winning cyclist at a very high level, and understands also those things. But he's also struggled with weight. He's candid about saying, that at 5'6", he was 230, 240 pounds when I first met him almost 30 years ago. And after that, by figuring some things out and walking into that fire of working hard and what it takes to lose the weight, that has led them down the path of athleticism that I don't even know that he knew was there. So, Jason, your journey, man. Where were you? Where were you a couple of years ago? Where are you now?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this. I think I probably would resonate a little bit with your buddy who was a cyclist a little bit. I think retired athletes have a whole different weight gain mentality. I think a lot of it is, and this is what I try to say, is like, as an ex-athlete that played at a high level, like, you trained because you just wanted to be the best, right? There wasn't trying to be healthy. It was like you were doing it to compete, to be the best at what you were doing. And so that was kind of a motivation. And then when you quit playing, or you retire, or let's just say you just don't play at such a significant level anymore, you don't train, right? But you still eat like you normally eat, right? And I think what it is hard to, if that's been your whole goal, motivation, and that's now gone, like, you have to find a new motivation, right? Like, you have to figure out another reason of why you're doing a certain lifestyle, why you're training so intently, things like that. But I will say it was a mix of a lot of things for me that the initial weight gain. I think it had to do a lot with family dynamic and upbringing. Um, we've talked a little bit. I think we actually kind of grew up in the same kind of uh, economic situation, meaning we came from meager situations. And so because of that, you didn't waste food. You ate everything that was on your plate. You didn't have a choice of what you were eating, right? It is what it was. And, I think with that, it with unknowingly shapes how your relationship is with food. And so that combined with no longer being an athlete, with no motivation to train, um, like it just kind of everything kind of piles on. Um, and next thing you know, you're 350 pounds, right? And I'll say this too, a lot of it was I was still healthy at 350 pounds. I'm now 240, so I've lost about 110. But I'd go to the doctor and the doctor would say, well, I mean, all your numbers are good. Like you don't have high cholesterol, you don't have, you have high blood pressure, but that's given. I have high blood pressure still. But it is, there was like no motivation to lose weight either, and I was also a very confident person, by the way. Even though I was 350 pounds, I was like, I still look good. So
I think you and I we suffer from that. We still think we have game.
yeah,
and now that we've lost some weight, we really have game.
I know we really got game. But yeah, I think I think it was a health issue that kind of kickstarted everything. I am currently on a kidney transplant list. And so in order for me to receive a kidney, I had to lose a significant amount of weight. And I did what I needed to do, but I think what the biggest part of my weight loss wasn't really weight loss. It was a change of mind frame. Asking myself like why I gained weight. I realized one of the biggest things was I could not throw away food ever. And whether we went out to eat, and obviously like when you have kids, like I remember it all started when the kids would order Happy Meals and they would eat one nugget and an apple slice, and I would eat the rest along with what I was ordering, and I think kind of started there, like they would, I'm like, Jack and James, they don't like to share. So it was like they just could not share a quesadilla. They had to have their own quesadilla, right? Even though it was the same quesadilla, they wanted their own. They would eat one slice out of it, and I ate the rest along with my meal, right? And so, yeah, like that. I think next, like you're, like I said, 350 pounds.
Well, can we go back to the family topic, because I relate to that so much. My grandmother used to show us, my grandmother and her sister, my great aunt, would show us love through food. I've been to a family gathering. I've been to a couple of family gatherings of yours, and it's identical. I mean, the amount of food and what's in that food is just filled with so much flavor. And, in my house, we call that tears of love, because flavor is love. I have also have had many meals prepared by you, and you're the same way. You cook with so much love, and I've never seen anybody so happy. I love cooking, but you love cooking. I mean, it's just like in your DNA. And I think you probably express a lot of what you feel for someone at a moment with food. I'm curious as to how you're coping with that these days, and how are you keeping yourself sane, if you are. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I will say, like I said, I think it was a whole mindset change. I don't think I eat normally. I just realize now that I don't have to eat a lot. It's okay with me to throw food away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the biggest thing for me is like I would only eat it because I didn't want it to go to waste. And now I'm like, well, just throw it away. I'm not, I'll say this too. I think society, aside family itself, society has placed such an importance on food that it then creates this um I guess you could say, I would almost use the word algorithm, an internal algorithm. It's like you don't eat because you're hungry, you eat because it's 5 o'clock, right? You don't eat because, you eat because you eat as a celebratory thing, right? And I'll tell you one of the things that we kind of stopped doing in our house is if I just say, if you're not hungry, don't eat. And if you don't want to eat it, don't eat it. Like that was a big thing too. I used to be like, no, you're eating it because that's what was made. And like, you're forcing this relationship with these kids and the food, I was like, if don't eat it, like if it's not something you enjoy and if it's not a necessity, then don't eat it.
Don't you find
Right.
that because kids are the perfectly built machine, they know when it's time to eat. I
Right.
think I think better than we do. I see that in my granddaughter. My granddaughter will be the first one to say, "I need something healthy." She'll even say, "I need something healthy," because she knows that, my grandkids eat
Hmm.
burgers and eat whatever they eat. She knows when another piece of pizza is just not a day for another piece of pizza. She'll say, "I need something
Yeah.
healthy." And if we just let them be, boy, that is quite a realization that you came to, because I don't know till I heard you say that we have.
Hmm. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think there's times where food and eating sometimes just like, hey, look, it's a holiday dinner. Like that's we're just eating what is made because it's a special moment. But not everything is a special moment, right? Like because you got an A on a test, why do you need to go get an ice cream? Like we even use food as a reward when food should just be looked at as a source of energy and maybe a treat here and there. You know what I mean? But like it's become like, you do something good in the class. What does the teacher give you? A little Snickers bar, you know? So it's just like we're programmed to have food as a reward, and I'll say this, when you grow up with no money and you end up having money and I was saying this the other day, I was like, because Kurt was like, do you even look at the price? I was like, I honestly, no, I don't look at prices. And I mean, I don't have to. Right. And so and I think because of that too, because we can eat whatever we want now, we eat whatever we want. Like I will not, that's why we are just talking about the other day. I was like, I think I'm gonna start meal prepping. And Kurt's like, you won't do it because when you eat, you want to eat what you want to eat. And you're not going to eat the same thing over and over and over and over again. And I said, you're right, because I do eat what I want to eat. Because if I don't want to eat it, then I shouldn't eat it. Because you're not building a different relationship with the food, you know. But
Yeah, it's such a fascinating topic. Yeah, I'm in the middle of a reset right now, and because I did a DEXA scan, my body fat percentage went up quite a bit over the last 6 months when I thought I was going in a different direction. So,
mm,
uh, but what was interesting, I just literally got back some before. I have a nutritional coach helping me through some things, and she said, send me your photos now, because I had sent her my photos a couple of months ago. And I think this is where maybe body dysmorphia and other topics come into play. I send her my photos, and she has the program where you can put the before and afters right next to each other, and she sends them back to
mm,
me. And she says, I questioned the DEXA scan. She says, you're doing the right things. Your physique is changing, and you're still stuck to the scale and the DEXA scan. So it goes to show you that it's not just even this topic is so complex that it goes into the body dysmorphia. I look at myself in the mirror and I can't even see the new me. And
yeah,
you ever
I agree
struggle
with
with
that.
that?
I would say it wasn't that. I agree with what you're saying. There was a point where I was taking a lot of pictures of myself, and Kurt was always like, God, you're so, what was the word he kept saying? You're so, not narcissistic. What's the word where they're
Vain.
like,
Vain.
vain. And I
Yeah.
said, I'm not doing this because I think I'm doing this because I don't recognize myself. I look at these pictures and I go, I don't even know who this person is. And I keep taking these pictures to be like,
Yeah.
and it was like I couldn't stop taking pictures of myself. And it wasn't because it was a vanity thing. I really did not recognize that person in these photos. And I don't say it was bothersome. I would just say that it was like, I'd be like, I don't think that's me. I don't think that looks like me.
You
And
want
then
to
I
hear?
don't feel like me.
You want to hear something weird that I think it's 100%. It 100% aligns with what you just said. The last time I lost a lot of weight, I went to a Bikram class, and a lot of times those classes are so hot that you take off your shirt, and I had like spandex pants and this and that, and I did that Bikram class, and I can literally see like an eight pack. I can see all my little abdominal muscles showing and all that, something that I'd never seen before. Even from back in the day where I was modeling in New York City, I could never see a six pack, much less an eight pack. But when I saw my body so lean, it was a real mental disappointment to me because I was so shocked by it that I didn't like it. I expected my body when it got lean to look like Fabio or something like that. Something symmetrically, something symmetrically perfect. That's what I thought would happen when I would lose all the weight. Consider that back then I was in my late 30s or early 40s, so probably more vain than a guy who's 57 years old now, not worried about that, hardly any. Still have an ego, but not worried about it a lot less. But I'll tell you what, Jason, when I saw that image of me where my pecs were not symmetrical, like somebody like Fabio, I was more, hey, not to toot my horn, my body was more like Tom Cruise's body. If you look at Tom Cruise, even though he's a very handsome, attractive guy, he's not super symmetrically put together. His pecs are not perfectly aligned and all that. And mine were not even half as good as Tom Cruise's. So I was very, very disappointed as to which point I thought, I don't know that I like this. And I kind of let go. And by letting go, I mean, I just started to eat the way I was eating again because I was so disappointed by that arrival. And I wasn't doing it for health reasons. Then I discovered that I was really doing it for vanity. And that really affected me. And I think really set me back. And I lost a lot. Where I think you and I are now, to take a dig on Kurt, I don't think any of this is vanity as much anymore as it is just our process to cope with this new you.
Yeah, I would say that I I enjoy the benefits on a visual standpoint, I guess, but that's not the goal. I think my whole goal is just like to be around. Like I say this all the time. I can't wait to like be a granddad, and I don't want to be like a granddad that can't do anything. You know what I mean? Like I want to be a granddad because that's gonna be like running around, throwing a ball, walking around the zoo, whatever the case may be.
It requires a lot of energy, man. People that
Yeah.
are grandparents or don't have that as a goal don't understand what it's going to require to be a grandparent. It requires a lot of
Right.
energy.
And I want to go to, hopefully they're athletes and
Yeah.
they want to go to, I want to go to their games. I want to, I just want to be able to like, if they're going to Vegas for a tournament, like, oh, we're going to Vegas. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to be mobile. I want to be like, do all those things. But I was saying like on a vanity aspect, I mean, if you're good looking, you're good looking, right? Like, what do you want me to hate? You want us to hate ourselves for being like,
Kurt's gonna really love this episode. He's gonna say, "Oh God, he went there."
yeah, no, but I'm here's the thing: is like, what are we going to pretend like we're not?
Well, it's
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, no, like I know we're not. Let's just say we're not like Fabio or Fabio's, or whatever these people. I mean, I'm no Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like
there's classes, there are classes when, and not classes, there is there's different types, and I remember we could have done so many social experiments when I was a kid with things like that. I remember when I was in acting school, I came outside, and there were a lot of people in my acting class that went out and became quite famous in soap operas and sitcoms and things like that. And there were runway models that wanted to become actors. There were all these people. I remember you go outside on the break, and I was more on the commercial model, because I'm short, I'm 5'9", and not super striking or anything like that. So I can do things in the commercial world, as to where these, runway model men, they were super tall, lanky, and when you would try to break into their group or their clique, they look down at you like, why are you even talking to us, man?
Yeah.
Go back to your group of little
right.
commercial models. Hey, go back to the Kmart catalogs.
Yeah, right.
We're on GQ. We're on everything. It's funny how that works, but yeah, it's definitely nice to look at things from a place of being healthy, because health is attractive. I mean, we get attracted to each other by something as simple as healthy teeth, smiles, skin, complexion. I mean, health is very, very attractive, and
Right.
and for those of us who have, like me, lost that to a certain degree. I mean, Susan sent me a picture of mine where I'll text it to you when we're done, but I was clearly over 300 pounds on that photo. It's just that I don't jump on a scale till I lose 20 or 30 pounds. Once I'm over 280, I don't ever get near a scale. So it means that I don't stop till it's way worse than that, if that makes any sense.
I mean, I'll say this too, though. I think, and I don't think anybody brought this up, but I mean, both of us, and Kurt, we're all self-employed,
Yeah.
right? And so I will say that too. I mean, luckily, like my business now is operational pretty much on its own. My involvement isn't as required, and that was a killer too. Like I was gonna say, you ever heard that saying, like, why are you eating like you don't know when you're going to eat again? And that's how I ate. I didn't know when I was going to eat again. I'm so busy. Like any moment I had, I was like gorging because I didn't know when I was going to eat again, and I know when you guys are going through all your remodels for those, I didn't even, you guys put so much time, like I don't even know how you did anything during those, that so I could see too, like in those moments of over scheduling, being over scheduled, under rest, like there's a lot there too that's unhealthy.
The other day I heard an expression, and it is that my ambition overshadows my capacity. And I thought that was a perfect and fitting sentence for me, because I take on a lot more than it's healthy for me. And I've had to learn to sort of manage that a little bit and not let my ambition overshadow my capacity, because now I realize capacity is finite. There's only so much I can do. And I think what you're figuring out is that, yeah, you do the hard work, you got to walk through fire for a period of time, but it's not sustainable forever, right?
No, I don't know if I would do well though. I feel like I am someone who needs to be filled to the brim all the time. And even Kurt says that all the time. He's like, you you don't really, like, I will relieve myself of duties to other people, and then I'll just pick up more duties.
Well, you're younger than we are, so that's the thing too. I think you're still in that place. And maybe in 10 years, we should talk again and kind of see where you're at then, because I think what you're doing is you're figuring out how to set all those buckets, and you're not going to stop building new buckets. That won't stop. That's just who you are. But I think as these buckets start to self-manage themselves a little bit, then your involvement is going to be less in each one of them. But I think you're always going to be creative, and you're always going to be building something.
Yeah, that's I think, but I think knowing what I know now, I can do it in a way to where my health isn't impacted either.
Yeah.
Just knowing what I know now, just through the experience of, you know, starting one company and, to where it's at now. And now I'm at a place where I go to the gym, one thing I forgot to say too, which helped me lose weight, or not lose weight, but maintain uh, my weight as it is, was, remember what I said, I hated wasting money. So I ate everything. Well, what I've done is I've taken that same concept and I reversed it to where now I have the most expensive gym membership. It's like $295 a person. And why do I do that? Because I'm not going to waste the money. I'm going. Now you let me go to, another gym where it's $30 a month. I probably won't go because I'm like $30, like it's 30, but to go for $300 a month, I'm like, I'm going. I'm not going to lose my money. Or I would go and just buy, yogurts in here, there. But now I'm like, no, I'm going to buy organic. I'm going to buy that because I won't let it go to waste, because I'm like, oh, no, that was way too expensive. Like, I'm going to eat that $3 apple.
I have a crazy question for you. Do you find that organizing or getting a handle on your health has helped you get better perspective or a handle on your finances?
I will say yes, but unintentionally.
Mm-hmm.
I would say because, health unfortunately being healthy is not cheap. You know what I'm saying? Like it's an investment, right? And so I treat it that way. So yes, I've organized our finances to accommodate a healthy lifestyle, which in return had to you know, maneuver other things and also be mindful of what I'm spending. Because I also think financial health coexists with physical health, right? And I don't think you can separate the two, to be honest. Like, I just think health is health, mental health, physical health, financial health, right?
I
Like,
agree. I think financial lack of financial health could lead to mental health issues. The amount of stress that one carries, and I think when you correlate weight and stress, I think they align perfectly. The more stress I would feel, even in some of these business ventures, unlike you, I've been involved in businesses that required me to travel the country 5 days a week, and you do 5 or 6 days a week. You do more than I ever did. It's really hard. I mean, it's really the most challenging place to be when it comes to taking care of oneself. It's painful, and people also think that if you can afford to have a chef, you can afford to be thin, and it just doesn't work that way.
right.
It's
Yeah.
just
Well, I think too is like, and that's the other thing is um the the expectations of people around you also contributed to weight gain. Like, you would go to a family and like, well, why don't you want to eat? Because I don't want to eat. But then you would eat because it's like, well, I put my effort into doing that. And so you'd eat and, you know, um, but I don't even know why I was saying that.
no, but going to the social aspect of that, because anytime I went to a Rotary meeting yesterday. I was invited to a Rotary meeting, 7 a.m. in Napa Valley in the beautiful Silverado Country Club. And I'm here listening to one of my agents. His husband is a highly sought after doctor here in the Napa Valley. And beautiful presentation on what he does to care for patients and his involvement with the Kaiser organization, and he's also in charge of I'm going to screw up this acronym, LGBTQ plus community. He handles all those aspects for Kaiser, and has a practice full book of patients at Kaiser. So he is like early to mid 30s, just super guy, super sharp, super smart. And people are sitting there listening to this doctor talk about why people go to see him, as he's watching everybody in this group, not everybody, but 95% of the people in this group, with a plate full of muffins and, I mean, all kinds of garbage food that they were feeding at 7 a.m. in the morning. That's how people start their days. And 6 people must have come by me to say, why are you not eating anything?
Mm-hmm.
And my answer in my head was, because you're trying to fucking kill me, because I went by the food and I saw what's there. And that's why I'm not eating anything. But it must have been 6 times. Hey, why are you not? Hey, oh, I heard that you're eating this way, but one of these is not going to kill you.
Right.
I understand, and I say it proudly. I understand that I am a food addict. People have different addictions. Some people are addicted to porn. Some people are addicted to sex. Some people are addicted to alcohol. Food is my weapon of choice and my weapon of self-destruction. It's the one that I've always used to cope with this challenging thing called life. And I've come to terms with that. So it would be nice if somebody were to go somewhere and if you didn't have food, food wasn't the weapon used against you. And I love what you said about your kids, that you finally come to a place where you don't have to shove food down a child's throat because they know when they're hungry. And we've been taught and trained to do that. A lot of it comes from the Depression, right? The Great Depression, there was no food. Our grandparents and great-grandparents dealt with the Depression and what it would be like to not have food. You and I are always going to find food somewhere. We're never going to have an issue not finding food. So our environment is challenging, man. And when you're traveling, you're right. It's even worse and then the options for good food when you're traveling, bro, brutal.
Yeah, that's funny. When you say we'll always find food, I made this joke the other day. I said, "Oh, I would totally win Survivor." And they're like, why? I was like, because they wouldn't vote me off, because I'd be like, oh, I just made this coconut crusted mahi with an macadamia crust. If anybody wants it with a mango chutney, right? Like he found all that in the forest, right? Or in the jungle. I'm like, yeah, right. Like, but
yeah,
but yeah,
you found a way to reduce these wild berries into a reduction chart to put over the wild rabbit you just caught.
Yeah, right.
Oh my God.
That's a, but going into, I forgot what you were saying about that, but yes, it was, we'll always find food. I just don't know why we put so much importance on food. And you were saying because of like the generational way of eating. Yeah, and it's hard, like in anything, there's generational ways of eating, generational ways of parenting, generational ways of doing business, right? The thing is like we can't be stuck in old generation mindsets because we don't live in a world our ancestors lived in, right? I say this all the time to Kurt. Like, he does not understand the phone. Why are they always on their phones for kids? And I was like, leave them alone, because that's the way their generation is going to communicate. That's the way their generation is going to want information, the way they are that quick, but it's not, there's no personal touch. I was like, their generation doesn't require that. What their generation requires is instant attention, like the instant, like if I have a question, I want the answer right now. And if you can't do that, you're going to be lost. You're not going to get that generation's business.
Yeah. Or attention.
Or attention. Yeah, they're going to go on to the very next person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm always like, for me, if I was a business, like, especially real estate, I was like, I would always answer my phone.
Yeah.
Because in this state of age, if it's ringing, this is they want to talk to you right now. And like, oh, you got to set boundaries. And I was like, okay, well, I get that. But you don't ever know you never know who's going to be on the other end of that call, because he doesn't understand. I answer my phone all the time, every time, because you know what I mean? I don't know. You don't never know who's on the other end of that phone call. And that could be a big break for you. It could be a big client. It could be a big something. And you let it go because of a movie that you were watching, or because it was, and to me, I was like, let me figure out what it is. And I could say, let me call you back. Right? They just want to talk to somebody. They want to know that you're available, right? And That's what I was saying. Because if I'll be the same way. If I call you, you don't answer, I'm going to call the very next person.
Yeah, that's the way society is now. And you and I know that. We know that if we don't answer, people do just go to the next person. But I hope one day, as you continue to mature in this spaceship that we call life, and this whole life experience, I hope for you, I wish that you can get to a place where being okay with losing some opportunities, it's just part of the experience. Because what happens and what happens a lot of times, and I see this with real estate agents and some that are very close to me, that they get so attached to that opportunity that sometimes they end up picking up the wrong opportunity because of that cadence of volume. It's just so much volume. And I can tell you, there's an example of one person that's near and dear to me, that there's a transaction, because we're all in real estate, we lingo on the real estate terms, but there was a client that started to work with, let's call her my friend early on. And I told my friend, this client from go is already asking for credits, it's already asking for this, it's already asking for that, and they hadn't even built rapport, and that was already happening. I said, it might not be a fit. Oh no, I can work through this. Because some people pride themselves, my wife included, they pride themselves on working through things. Hence why she's been able to stay married to me for 35 years. She works through things, right? So she's got endurance on her side.
Right.
So which is good and wonderful for some people, but to an extent, in regards to my friend, this woman who took on this client that I didn't think she should work with, she's going to court 3 years after the transaction because this client made up a story about her not giving her the right accounting advice. Well, this friend of mine is not an accountant, shouldn't be given accounting advice, and they picked out a technicality that is dragging my friend all over court on something that should have passed. And I think what happens, Jason, is that there's always going to be a lot of opportunity out there. The one thing that we all will look back on they're really not going to be about business opportunities. They're really going to be about the moments that we spend together. And
right.
And you're going to get more perspective. I mean, you'll get the perspective the minute you get a grandchild. You're going to drop all those phone calls. You're going to drop all that stuff. It's not going to matter in 10 years because it's going to shift anything. I think what Kurt is up against right now, she's up against the guy that, is still young and is still out there kicking ass and taking names. And those are two different times in life, right?
Well, I think going to what you were saying, like kind of correlates back to health, right? Going back to missed opportunities. The thing is, like, for me, I have two different mindsets of like why I will always take clients. One, it's the opportunity, I think, is secondary to I have the mindset of suffocate my competition. And when I say that, I will take you into my program, even though you probably shouldn't, just so you don't go to another coach. And I'm going to suffocate these coaches to where they eliminate themselves out of the market. Secondly, though, I also like I said, I think one of my biggest fears is to become broke again. When I say broke again is because I grew up broke and I don't ever want to go back there ever. So losing all this weight, my biggest fear is to gain this weight back. So I think that all kind of plays into, whether it's business, whether it's your health, whether it's whatever, the fear of backtracking for me is a big thing. And
how old are you?
I don't know if that's,
how old are you right now?
Turning 46.
Yeah. So you're literally more than 10 years younger than me. You're 12 years younger than me. So you're a lot younger. You're in a similar place to where I was at your age, man. I probably would have said exactly what you're saying. So I can't say that you're in the wrong place. You're just in that place. You're not going to be broke again. You're never going to be broke because I know you. Well, could there be a shift or a downturn or an adjustment? There can always be one. But I'll tell you that life experiences that you've had up to this point have built such a master's or PhD on what you know and what you do for your business that nobody's going to take that away from you. And you're very much like me, where you want to offer so much value. That's what I think you mean by choking the competition. You're going to do the job so much better than they're going to do it. And that's what I did in the real estate career. I just offered more value than anybody else did for the same amount of money. And and that's why I won. 90% of the times I go up against somebody, I would win. And that was my happy place. And by the way, I'll tell you a secret, it still is. I mean, if I go on a listing appointment tomorrow, Susan will ask me to go with her on a listing appointment tomorrow. My most fun thing in the world to do, one of the top few, is to just go out there and express to somebody what my company does that nobody else does. And it's a no-brainer for them to sign with us. So I'm still in that place that you live in. The one thing that I would caution you about is the FOMO in the present, the FOMO in the present, that like when you're home for an hour or 2 hours, and by the way, Kurt hasn't talked to me about any of this, full disclosure. But when you're home for an hour, and this is a guy that did everything wrong talking to you, when you're home for an hour and make it an intentional hour to be with your person, or, or make it an intentional hour with the kids. Because what happens when that phone is there, everybody resents the phone. And Susan and I look at each other and we resent the phone when each one of them has the phone in their hand. And I don't know why I resent her so much for having the phone in their hand when I'm the one that has the phone in my hand most of the time. So it's just, and by the way, as I'm speaking, I'm learning, because I need to be more intentional about the time I spend with Susan and not a phone. So I'm struggling with that, by the way.
Yeah. To backtrack a little bit, you said something, and this is where me and you are identical. It's the win, right? You said, I want to win the listing. I want to win. And that's kind of where I was saying, like, I don't know if you have an athletic background, but my background is in athletics, and athletics is about winning.
I never connected that with that in sports at all. It's the weirdest thing. I don't care if I lose a game. I see a game as a game. For me, a game is not about winning or losing. I'm literally the goofball that's out there who doesn't care who wins. And it frustrates the athletes or the people that see a sport as something they need to win from. For me, it comes from survival, being in the streets of New York by myself at 16 years old. And for me, it's more like you, about not going back into poverty. For me, that's where winning comes from, is wait a minute, I'm going to feed my family before anybody feeds theirs, because I'm going to do better for the, it's a different way, but it's still the same thing.
Right. Well, I also think too, it's more of I have family members who, I wouldn't say criticize, but they're always having something to say how we spoil our kids and da 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 da. And I say, that's by intention, honestly. Like, I don't ever want them to be okay with the minimal, with just the bare minimum. Because I'll tell you this, and it's not a bad thing. Because we had the bare minimum, I was happy. Being broke, I was so happy. Yeah. Right? I mean, I had the best family, I had the best cousins, I had, you know what I mean? There was nothing that I missed out on. But what it did do was it taught me to be content and happy with nothing. And so if you have that mindset, how do you move out of it? Like, it took me to the age of like 32 years old to be like, no, I think I want more. Like, yes, I'm happy, but like, I don't want to be happy with this.
Jason, hold on a second. I have one word for you. You ready? Maturity.
What is that?
Maturity.
Oh, maturity. Yeah.
We are all a work in progress, and you're still in your 40s. That's still a young man, and you're still in it. And that win feels so good, man. And you still have a lot of testosterone left. So now consider that in 10 years, things will change, and perspectives change. I'll tell you, all it takes is one of those boys to get married or not. Whether they get married or not, and just a child comes into the equation, And it takes, and honestly, it takes these conversations. It takes these things as part of the process for you to reflect, and then you'll look how much you've changed since I've known you,
Yeah.
dude. Look at
12
that,
years.
dude. I mean, you've changed dramatically. Look how much I've changed since I've known you. I mean, it just look at this. Now, Kurt hasn't changed one damn thing. He's still identical. I'm just messing.
No.
I'm just
Yeah.
messing with him. He's gotten very lean. I will give him a lot of credit, man. He's looking good. He's looking very lean.
Yeah. We just working out and being healthy has become a priority. But the thing is too, is like it's gotten, well, at least James into being healthy and to working out and hopefully those patterns continue, with them
Yeah,
as they
I
get
think
older.
I think that James has gotten to the point where the guy probably is into the science of building muscle and things like that because he's at that stage. And boy, what an inspiration! The last time I saw him, I thought, "Holy crap!" Just the guy looks great.
Yeah. No, yeah, but he's definitely on the vanity side of things. But it doesn't matter. Whatever it takes.
That's exactly where he should be. That's the stage in life where we're supposed to be out there attracting other people. He's exactly where he needs to be.
Yeah.
That's how we procreate. So moving on, tell me about this year and what you might tweak. Tell me something about your health and what you might do a little different this year, what you might improve on. What goals do you have?
Funny enough, I'm gonna start transitioning myself out of my current business and start to do what I want to do when I'm done with this. So my goal is I want to become a content creator for food. And I want to do like different kinds of themes of food. I'm just gonna start documenting. I cook all the time. I might as well just document it. You know what I mean? Put it together and start creating content. And I think a lot of it is I want to do like let's what do we call like traditional foods? Just say like I'm just using this like an example, like Salisbury steak. I'm gonna make a Salisbury steak regularly, and then I'm gonna be like, but now let's do this other version that is half the calories, half the and just kind of do it like that. Because here's the thing, you should be able to eat both. You know what I'm saying? You should be able to eat it's not like the one thing I've learned through this is like it's not what you eat, it's how much you eat of it. You know what I mean? So have whatever you want. I feel like just I just think you have to understand like why, like when do you need to stop eating it?
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
that again for a guy with food addiction, that's super challenging because I wouldn't know where to stop. If I put, I haven't had salt, oil, or sugar in my mouth for over a year. So now I don't, it's weird to say this, man. The fact that I could be in a room with people eating beautiful looking pizzas and me not engaged because it's not calling at me. It's weird. I don't know that I can do that many days in a row. I think I would break. I think it would be like, maybe I don't want to talk to people that have speak for people that have had addictions to heroin, but maybe let's talk about an alcoholic and an alcoholic
Or a smoker.
or a smoker. They can be
Mhm.
around it for a day or two, but I don't know that a smoker can be around somebody smoking 5 days a week, around them 8 hours a day.
Mhm.
I think ultimately you might pick it up
Yeah.
again, and I am very much that guy. But what has happened for me is that I don't equate food with fun anymore because food has become a necessity, not and it's all because of my palate, because of that cleansing palate and again, I don't judge it because you are such a highly creative person and you're so good at that. And I can see your face light up when you talk about it, man. So I would definitely suggest that you lean into that because dude, it's your happy place and you have to honor that. And I think we all have to get whatever our creative Have you ever read the book called The War of Art?
Mm-mm.
I highly recommend
No.
that you read that book, because it's a lot of times we're struggling with a resistance, and the resistance comes from the artist that's already within us, that we don't let that artist express itself, him or herself. And for me, a lot of my way of expression now is doing these podcasts. I love it. It's like one of the most creative things I do, and I look forward to it, and I'm excited by it. For you, you're the same way at a whole other level than me, because you love social media, you connect with it, and you're smart about starting businesses and getting things rolling. So I highly encourage you to do it. The part where I get my mind gets confused is um and maybe just some things light up for me, and it's because of the addict side of my brain, is how do you make, how do you, yeah, I hear you say that about the quantities of food, you can control the quantities. It's hard for people who are addicts, and I don't know what percentage of the people are really truly food addicts. I don't even know that there's been a study done to determine who is really a food addict, and most food addicts don't know they're food addicts, by the way. um they getting back into reduction sauces and things that are very rich, just it's sort of a gateway to eating larger quantities. Because when you talk about salivary steak or something like that I used to love to eat, um then that goes really good with a nice brioche.
Chicharron.
Yeah, chicharrón. That goes. Yeah, that's the slippery slope, and that
Yeah.
so the managing the quantities is, for somebody like me that has probably an overextended stomach, it's just almost impossible to control. So I would say, as you start processing how you go into making something delicious, I would challenge somebody like you um, to really, really dig into, because I know you can make anything delicious, man. I bet you I can throw a few ingredients in front of you, and you have a way with. You'll probably caramelize a carrot down to a reduction, and the carrot's going to taste great by the amount of charring you got off of the pan.
Yeah. Mm.
You'll figure it out. I just want to challenge you to go even deeper, and think of people that have a hard time managing quantities, and maybe more nutritionally substant than calorically dense. If that makes any
Yeah.
sense.
Well, it's funny that we're talking like this, because I've been having this theory, right? And I don't want to say I'm researching this, but I believe in like intentional feeding. And when I say intentional feeding, meaning like whatever you start to feed a symptom, a feeling, an emotion with, that's what your body's going to want to keep having. So obviously when you're thirsty, you feed your body liquid. If you're hungry, you feed it food, right? But that's the other thing where we get, all of a sudden we have a sensation of being bored. What are we going to feed it? What are you going to feed that boredom with? And eventually when you start feeding these sensations, these feelings or whatever with the same thing, your body will then start to crave it in that instant. So like, for instance, like if I become bored, right, I'm going to start like just doing jumping jacks, right? If I'm bored, if I'm absolutely bored, I'm going to start doing jumping jacks. That's what I'm going to feed my boredom with, right? If I'm feeling uneasy, right, I'm going to feed it with literature. I mean, I'm going to just start reading. If I start to get this uneasy feeling, like this, I won't say anxiety, but when I get this like restlessness, because a lot of people will start feeding those things just with food. When you're
Yeah.
bored, they feed it. You feed the boredom with food. When you have an emotional response, you feed that emotional response with food. You're like, I mean, you're tired, you feed it sleep. Like there's these things that we should start intentionally feeding our emotions, our sensations, our with. You know what I mean? And eventually, I feel like when you do this intentional feeding, um, your body will then just crave these things within that moment. So, like for instance, why when you're saying about the food, where does people stop? I say I feel like there's a trigger for things. Like for instance, when I don't know if you know this, but I used to smoke, And, when I quit smoking, I always realized, well, what was the trigger that started my wanting to have a cigarette to begin with? And that was coffee, right? I could do anything as long as I didn't have coffee. I didn't, the sensation of having a cigarette did not kick in until like later throughout the day. And it was a lot easier to manage. But then I remember I didn't have coffee for probably like 6 months and then I remember having the first cup of coffee and I was like, fuck, I want a cigarette so bad. But it was a lot easier after 6 months of not having coffee than it was, right? Or, so like, what is the trigger? So when I lost weight, I didn't have taco shop for over a year because that was my trigger. That was the thing. When the minute I had some rolled tacos, it was over. It was a rolled taco, it was a carne asada burrito, it was a quesadilla, it was so I didn't have it for a year because I was like, no, because that's gonna that rolled taco. Next, I'm having a chile relleno and some tortillas, and then next, like I'm eating a bag of chips, and next, you know what I mean, like. So I just understand what my initial triggers are.
Have you ever had a bam bam or a bang bang? You know what a bang bang is?
What is it?
There's
I think so. I think I had this in New Jersey.
There's a sitcom on Netflix called The Master of None, and Aziz Shafari. I can't believe I remember all these things. The comedian Aziz Shafari.
Yes.
So Aziz Shafari and his best friend would go have a bang bang, and a bang bang was let's go have sushi tonight, and then after we have sushi, let's go have tacos. Let's have another dinner. And I've had bang bang before. I've had 2 dinners, dude, before going to bed.
Oh yeah. Okay, so yeah, that is. I thought that was just normal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Who doesn't do that?
Yeah. Well, so that's the thing. Like so here's the thing. Talking about like building like triggers and habits. Like I cannot go to Jack in the Box without having a normal order and then tacos. Like I get tacos with no matter what I order, and it's just the way it is. And so that's the other thing. I didn't do Jack in the Box for a long time either. But
man, it sounds like you've processed a lot. This journey is taking you through a lot of self-realization, huh?
Yeah, well, yeah, because you have a lot of time to think about and I think this is not just health. I just think this is I'm a self-inquisitive person. Like that's and I'm not even just self-inquisitive. I'm always wanting to know what other people think. Like for instance, like ask my kids anytime they do something wrong. I'm always like, honestly, I just honestly want to know the last 3 thoughts that went into your head before you did this. Like what are those last 3 thoughts that that just my mindset is like, what was the thought process that brought you to these decisions? And so I do it to myself. Like what was my thought process going into this? Like why did I even? And I'm always like mapping myself out. I think that's an instinctively thing for me to do. I think that's why I coach. You know what I mean? Because that's what I do as a coach. Like I'm mapping out why issues are happening and existing so I can fix them. But I think that's what I did for myself too. Like why do I how did I gain this weight? Like one day I'm not even kidding. One day I woke up, I was 350 pounds. And even my doctor, when I went in, she's like, I'm not really concerned about your weight because the people that are this heavy come into my office and they can't walk, right? They're diabetic. She's like, you're completely healthy. You just have high blood pressure. Other than that, you are completely healthy. You're just a big guy, right? And I forgot what I was going with that. Oh, so I started to ask myself, I was like, Oh, she was saying like, it wasn't the weight gain. It was that I gained 100 pounds in a year. I gained 100 pounds in 1 year. And I think a lot of it, and it's funny, is it was like after we got married.
Yeah.
Like I was very restrictive until that point. And then, because you're told you want to look good for your wedding day. Because my thing my cousin always told me, because I said, why do I need to lose weight? He's like, because pictures are forever. And I go, oh, damn, you're right. Right. So I was very restrictive for like almost 8 months. So I could look my best for the pictures that will last forever. And then Yeah, the day after that, it was like boom, 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 whatever I wanted, ate, what and it went, I don't know. I wouldn't say it went from one extreme to the other, but it definitely, um, I let it happen. I didn't even think about it. If I wanted it, I got it. I wanted to eat it, I ate it. I want to keep eating, I'll keep eating, but I think we have to like stop at some point. And I think that's the thing. If we just always ask ourselves like, why, you'll just figure it out, And one more thing, I have to actually get going here, but one last thing that if I was to give anybody advice on where I'm at and how, one of the things I had to ask myself, and somebody actually told me this, they said, well, now that you lost all this weight, who's going to be the skinny you? And I'm like, what does that mean? I was like, same thing when people say, oh, now that you have this money, like, are you going to let this money change you? You should let money change you. You should let like your skinny you change you, because you are broke, not because you don't have money. You're broke because of the person you are with money. You're not fat because of the way you eat. You're fat because your mindset is of a fat person. So you just can't like lose this weight. You cannot just get this money. You just can't do these things without changing who you are, because you are a result of who you are. Like, you're physically a result of who you are. Right. And so I had to figure out, well, who's going to be the skinny me? That's so true. Like, I was a procrastinator. I no longer procrastinate. Like, I would always like wait till my bill was like the day of the pay. I was like, no, now that the bill comes in, I just pay it. In fact, I just do auto pay now. Right. Yeah. But just like anything like that, like I would walk out of the house and be like, okay with wearing stained hoodies, and because I didn't care. Now I'm like, no, if I'm going to walk in the house, I'm going to look presentable. So I had to change. Like, I made this new person of who I am, who's the skinny me, who's the fit me, and if I can say like that would be the one thing I think everybody, when they start a journey, is say, who's going to be the new me, not what's going to be my new diet. Like, who's going to be the skinny me.
Bro, I have to say that was a great way to round out the time together. You're a beautiful person with an even more beautiful heart. We love you, man. We talk about you often in our home, and we look forward to seeing you hopefully here in the Napa Valley very soon. If not, you'll see us in actually, as a matter of fact, I'm going to be in San Diego next week. I guess I'm going to see Kurt. I'm not going to see you, unfortunately, because you're going to be traveling. But
next week,
would love to.
Well, I just hired somebody, who does all my traveling. I was supposed to be gone this week.
I'll be there from the 24th through the 26th, and then going to Vegas after that. So if you're around,
I'll be around.
Oh, that'd be brilliant. So I want to thank you for spending this time with me on our Body Mind Index podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you smash subscribe and also hit a thumbs up and maybe a question or two or just a comment for us. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. Jason, thank you so much for being on it. Would love to do it again.